JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Monday, December 23rd, 326 on this fine Monday afternoon. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there, particularly the S&P, up about 0.3%, off the lows at 10 o'clock this morning. Nice reversal over its 50-day moving average. Um, some decent things today, right? So, I mean, first and foremost, the 50-day moving average, which is 589.71. So we were below that at the open. Tesla lows right around 1015 or so, down at 587 and change. And then a slow, meticulous bounce for pretty much the rest of the day, all the way to 2 o'clock, and then hit 594 in the spot and then just pull back a little bit. So all things considered, not too shabby. It's a very low volume, quiet session. I mean, it's I was saying on the rant this morning, this traditionally is a week where there's not, and next week as well, because we have a holiday, we have a half day tomorrow. There's not a lot of analyst activity. A lot of analysts are not doing any crazy analyst upgrades, downgrades, things like that. There's not a lot of in the way of market catalyst data. There's earnings. So, with that being said, pending any crazy shenanigans, the market's going to pick the easiest direction and probably melt that way for the rest of the week. The concern for me, a little, I wouldn't say the concern, but now all you read is the headlines is the Santa Claus rally, right? Everybody's hyping it up. Uh, I remember 10 years ago, wasn't that phenomenon wasn't like as well renowned, right? It wasn't like everybody, they just talked about it kind of like, you know, you would just think it's because it's the holidays, right? You didn't know there was any kind of anything behind it, but now all of a sudden it's mainstream, right? So uh, it has its days. I think back in the day it was only a couple days. Now it's 5 days before and 2 days after. I so to me, anytime there's an event that's supposed to be extremely bullish, it tends to maybe disappoint. So hopefully not the case. Again, I think because of the volume and as long as the market picks the direction, I think it'll be to the upside. So we'll see here. Closing over the 50-day moving average, we have 32 minutes left in the session. That'll be a good sign. The VIX, which was at 20 this morning at that 10 o'clock when we hit lows, reversed all the way down to 17, and now it's down 5.6%. So that's another good sign. Um, Other things to note, and I posted a chart early in the chat room when I was looking back at some of the data. So I was looking at the amount of data, amount of stocks in the S&P under their 50-day trading above their 50-day moving average. It hit 20% on Wednesday last week, and then a small bounce, and it was over 25% coming into today. And every time you look at it bounced and reversed, it was the market bottom for that session. So back in August, back in May, and then you go back in 2023, the same overlay. So I overlaid that with the market or the S&P, and it preceded every bottom. The only issue here is we're starting to go back the other way on the amount of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average. It looks like, well, two stocks are back under it, and none have really crossed over it. So hopefully that'll resolve into the coming days. But half glass, I'm saying half glass full, half glass empty situation usually bodes well if you're looking for the bottoms. And I don't have the overlay, but I do have the chart, uh, and you can see every time the dips happened. Uh, Harder to see because the 2022, 2023 areas have larger percentage. You go back to 2022, less than 2.5% of the stocks in the S&P were over that 50-day moving average. So if you're looking and say, wow, it can't get any lower, it definitely can. But every one of these bottoms and then reversals were bottoms in the market. So hopefully that trend continues. Last but not least, of course, the small caps and underperforming today. IWM still it's holding the 220. Came down to 219.50 this morning, but it's still not off 0.3%. One of these days, maybe it'll participate in the Sandal rally. It's just been waiting, right? Maybe it's waiting for tomorrow to really start to perform, but hopefully that starts to go. All right, so now individual names. AMD. So AMD, it was back in the summer. I added some strikes, played for a bounce. And then this morning, you look, it was hitting. It's like I think there's a lot of folks waiting for it to bounce, right? It's not just me. And it's like I always use the analogy. It's like the forgotten stepchild, and it at some point it's gonna run. It's gonna reverse course. It just hasn't, and it started to do it on Friday, and then there was continuation this morning. And once it started to really show some strength, I went and got some calls, and I was gonna get later dated strikes, but I wanted inexpensive. There's not a lot of time this week. So I went and got next week strikes, and then within a matter of 20 minutes, I was able to lock, well, 30 minutes, I don't know how long it was, lock some in for a little over 50%. And I'll just hold the rest. If the market melts higher for the rest of the week, I look at AMD. I'm like, it could trade over 130 this week, and if not higher into next week. And there's a gap. I think it's 137 or so on the chart. Let's see if I can paste in the chat room. So I think it's a nice setup, at least to play for some upside, and then took some risk off, right? So this way, I'm not holding the entire position pending, if there's any crazy news or shenanigans that happens over the next couple sessions. At least I got some out to cover some of the costs. And then I'll look for another opportunity to lock some more in, and then I'll ride the rest. But that's why I got the AMD strikes. Seemed like some of the semi names were doing pretty well. So that's AMD. Some of the other names I'm in, and SolarEdge, I'm still waiting for it to start to really follow through on its reversal. And today it looked like it might want to do that. It was over 15 in the morning, and then it's been chopping around. I just think it's only a matter of time. You look at this downtrend. As long as it breaks this downtrend and gets a little bit of FOMO, then I think they'll just start heading up near $20. I'll wait till 16 breaks before I add any more strikes on that. I'm still TripAdvisor actually looks pretty good here today, all the way down to 13.55 in the morning, and it's reversed pretty much 45 cents, sitting here at $14. I was looking at January 15s. I tried to get some in at 30 cents, and they wouldn't fill, and then someone else got them. It looks like. So I'll just be patient. It's almost like a sign. Maybe I'll wait. And then had 35 on the ask. I go in, now it's 30 by 40. I'll wait. So really like Trip, and I'm trying to do some research there in regards to its fundamentals. And that I was talking about this morning. They did the buying out the stakeholder Liberty TripAdvisor. I forget exactly what the company is, but their parent company Liberty, right? So or at least it was. But I think that kind of clears some of the air, and then maybe allows the opportunity for some strategic alternative of a buyout. So next time someone comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to buy, we want to buy you for $28 a share," it won't get nixed, right? But at some point, I looked, I'm still looking for some strikes there. It got all the way up to its 50-day moving average at 1450 after the news last week. So maybe that'll be the breaking point right there. What else do I have on here? Why don't I have I don't have my updated charts here. Peloton is just trading, and I don't know if I had the chart on here. I don't know why I don't have the chart here. But if you pull it out on the daily and further out, the chart actually looks pretty good, despite the fact it's not not over $10. But it's been struggling under $9 earlier, 2 hours ago. Has bounced from 895 all the way up here to 927. At some point, that's going to go, and now we're going into a point of time where people are going to get into the New Year's resolutions, right? And the Peloton's a name, and any fitness name usually gets a bump regardless of what they do. I'm trying to look at some of the other names. Square, which is just farting around. That's not a great way to describe it, but it's not doing much here today. It's been chopping around between 89.50 and 88.80, and really hasn't done much over the last week. So kind of disappointing there. Same with Roku and that. Tough. One of the times that I'm going to be out of the calls, and that's when they're going to really start to take off. I mean, Square has already ran nice over the last couple of months, but it's just a matter of time before that churn is done, and then it's off to over 100, then 110. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. You know what? I keep looking at Cigna and Humana, and these insurers, right? So, of course, there's going to be some repercussion. I hate to say repercussions, because you hate to see a tragic event where someone loses their lives just because they're doing their job, have a ripple effect, right? I mean, if you trade stocks and stuff, you got to separate the right and the wrong, right? I remember Sears Holdings back in the day, or I'm trying to think some of the other names that might be going back. And I used to trade Sears Holdings on the call side because it had a huge short interest. But there used to be names that you would trade and you'd buy puts on them because you think the name's going bankrupt, right? And you do that even though if it does go bankrupt, people are going to lose their jobs, right? It just comes with the territory. But I'm here to make money trading option, right? So if I can come up with a bull or bear case, that's how I trade it. So similar with these healthcare names, it's unfortunate to see someone lose their lives, and then someone lose their life because of it, and there's repercussions where there's going to be whatever. I don't want to rationalize or discuss that, but my point is, like, if you look at these insurance names, that whole healthcare system is it's a big circle jerk, right? I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. You know, the insurers, the hospitals charge crazy amounts of money for whatever the insurers. Oh, it all loops around in a big circle, and all them make money, and it's just it's tough for the patient, the people who need the health care. Uh, I mean, that's been going on forever. So these are cash cows, but I think they've been a little overcompensated for what's going on, and who knows, some of that the RFK situation too, where you have the new administration coming in, there might be some repercussions there as well. But you look at Cigna and some of these other names, it's not like they're gonna the system's gonna get just revamped in a couple months. So could be opportunity. I was posting a chart on Cigna before. Could be a name I look to get uh, some spec calls on, especially if the market finds footing. Maybe tomorrow will be the day I look to get some spec calls. I mean, here's Cigna, and you look at the chart. Do I have it up here? I don't even know if I have it up here. But anyway, it's 281 here. It's actually hitting highs as I'm talking. And you start looking the implied move on the calls for this week, and mind you, markets close Wednesday and half day tomorrow. So you have to assume right now it's Wednesday afternoon, right? Well, we have two and a half trading days left. So it's $8 implied move on the weekly strikes. So I mean, 295s for 2035 don't look too bad as a risky lotto. If you get 4% move puts those into money. So anyway, so just things I'm looking at. And then just side note. So I'm finishing my top 5 stocks for 2025 webinar. Hopefully I have that out by the weekend. And yeah, just it's like it's like not fun watching the market here today. Rumble moving today. I mean, uh, that one's a name that's like a proxy, right? So I've looked at that one over the last year or so. Uh, Tough one to trade, and of course you have to time the news this morning with Tether. Uh, Other than that, yeah, interest. Some of the cannabis names running today. So actually, Tilray's back down. It was over 10%. Is it? Did they get hit? Oh no, it is. It's up 13% now. One of my favorite stocks, one of my top 5 stocks back in the day, Exogen, AXGN. They do nerve repair. That one's been just keeps going up. And then I remember when I made it one of my, it was a $20 stock, ran all the way up to like $50 in a matter of a couple months. I have to probably revisit that one. I'm not saying it's gonna be one of my, I'm not gonna make it a top 5 stock for 2025, but I keep watching it. And every time I put it back on the chart, I pull it up. It's up, and the next day it's up, right? So probably the time I look to get calls is the time that's the top. But anyway, that's it, folks. Have a great afternoon. I'll be back later. Rock and roll.